Thanks for joining me. You know who this is. 4 albums reviewed. Let's get to it. Did you know that I put in tons of little secret references to stupid internet videos in all my videos? That was one of them. If you can tell me who that was a quote from, you are a smart guy. We're going to be listening to, I don't know how to pronounce this, Hantises. It's a Quebecois black metal band called Frozen Shadows, and the album is Hantises. That's how I'm pretending that you pronounce it. This band is so goddamn good, and this record is their swan song. So good. It's vicious, fast, ice fucking cold, blasty, melodic, memorable, catchy. It's just super, super good Canadian black metal. I first heard of these guys when I picked their demo up out of the Red Stream catalog for $3 or $4, and it sucks. Their demo was pretty embarrassingly bad, and they got better with their second record, and then this album just blows all the rest of their stuff away. Their first album is pretty good, but this one, great record. I listen to this one 2 or 3 times a year. It's super, super great. So, 4 more recent acquisitions that are worthy of your attention. Our last video wasn't so great. Not a lot of hot titles. This one's got the jams. Let's start off with Cynic's Focus. I picked this up at Earwax Records, Record Store Day. Always needed to get a copy of this, never got around to it. And this version is kind of cool, I guess. It's remastered, of course. Came out in 2004 and has some bonus tracks. There's a couple of remixes of songs that are on this album. And then there's a couple of tracks from the album, or from the band. What are they called? Portal, that's it. These guys broke up after they recorded Focus and did an album under the name Portal. And what they did really was they took everything that sucked about this album, everything that made this a little bit different from the albums that Death were doing at the time. They took all those elements and they made a Portal album. And it has some hilariously terrible reviews. It's not as bad as everyone really says it is, but it is what it is. Anyways, Cynic's Focus is a masterpiece of shred. I'm a huge fan of Sean Reinhardt's drumming, so weird that I hadn't picked this up until now. There's no accounting for some of my discretions. But Cynic's Focus, yeah, it really acts like a compendium to spiritual healing, or kind of human in a way. And individual thought patterns, of course. So, I mean, this album just fits right alongside those. And, like, it's going to take me a really long time, I guess, and to figure out, like, how can you make an excuse for how much this band is, I don't know, stealing ideas from, influenced by, paying tribute to Chuck Schuldiner and what Death was doing at this time. Nobody minds, because who can possibly get enough of really any era of Death? But it's just kind of weird, It's one of those weird fluke albums that's obviously overshadowed by that which it's paying tribute to, but it's still really, really great. Just the computer vocals on it just do so much harm to the notoriety and the praise that this album totally deserves. It's a great record. It's just got some really, really stupid, dated ideas that nobody should have ever followed through with, let alone taken those ideas and made a whole new band and album out of it, which is fucking bizarre. Anyway, so completely, really, all four of these albums are completely different from one another, and I like how diverse it shows my collection, my taste, and really metal in general can be. So this, man, I've had this on my radar for many, many, many years. Basically, if you ever find any album that is on a label called Nazgul's Eerie Productions, that's going to be right around like 93, 94, 95. There's stuff like Countess, early Behemoth, stuff like that on there. You know, I know all this stuff, but I get on camera and I just completely forget everything that I would rattle off right now. So I'm kind of drawing a blank, but, you know, look up Nazgul's Eerie. So that label is great, and I've always wanted to own a copy of this oddity of an album. So the band is called The Nor, or I don't know, pronunciation on this is kind of weird because it's not a word. Thanorr. And the album, German Wolfenzeitalter. And this has just always been an intriguing album cover. The fact that it's on Nazgul's Eerie is kind of says a lot to the quality of it. Good band photos there. So I picked it up having never heard it, but always kind of wanted to hear it and always wanted to get a copy of it. And picked it up for like $2.50 or something in the cutout bin. And this came out in 1995 on a rare European label. Also, if you're not familiar, Nazgul's Eerie then eventually became Barbarian Wrath Productions, which recently, 5 or 6 years ago, changed its name to Witch's Brew. But Witch's Brew, Barbarian Wrath, is, for all intents and purposes, just dead. The guy who ran Barbarian Wrath is in a brain-dead coma and basically is not around anymore with us. But he leaves behind a legacy of great albums. And this one, to my best comparison, I would say this sounds like a German version of Transylvanian Hunger with terrible drum machines and German riffs and pretty good vocals. It's just got a lot of charm for it, its eccentricities, and for its shortcomings. It's just kind of one of those albums that you just gotta love because it's kind of bad but kind of good, and it has kind of trips over itself in trying to be something that it kind of never did, but for being such a time capsule and for style in this time period, it's just got a lot to offer. So if that sounds any interesting to you, minimalistic black metal in the mid-90s, check this out. So something completely different. So Otig are one of my absolute favorite bands. Olivethard is totally where it's at. So I picked this up. This is a double CD reissue of both Otig albums. The reason I got this is because I didn't have the second album. Olivethard will never leave my possession, but I had a copy of Sargavinder's Boning, their second record, for a while, and I guess I just hated it and got rid of it just because it wasn't Olivethard, the debut. So I decided to pick up this one just because it was super, super cheap. Maybe I'll give away a copy of... no, I'm not. I love Otig too much. But I think this is a really well done reissue of two records. So the disc art for Olivethard is exactly like the original Olivethard. I don't have the disc for Sargavinder's Boning, so I can't show you exactly that one. But what they did here is they just put a little slip thing out front. And then the book here is the one album, page for page, exactly like the original issue. And then Olivethard, page for page, exactly like Olivethard was. So it's like having two separate albums just kind of sandwiched in together into one release. And I just really love how it preserves what it once was without kind of reauthoring anything like so many other reissues do. But onto the music. Okay, so Otig's Olivethard I might wind up doing like a full review of sometime because that album is just worthy of so much talking from me anyways. But Sargavinder's Boning, I'll talk about this one It kind of takes off where where Alvifard left off, but it almost acts like a cartoonish sort of metaphor of itself, in that it takes kind of the tricks and the charms and the little things that were kind of memorable about Alvifard, but it just takes them way beyond where they need to go. And I kind of think it becomes a crutch. It becomes really annoying. There's this stupid, in track 1, Holdran. No, that's Alvifard. Troslotet. There's this weird, second vocal in the chorus where there's this trollish guy, playing mouth harp behind it. It's just super weird. The second song, Vili Levandring, has this weird pinch harmonic in the riff that it's just poor taste. If you could roll back some of those things about this album, I'm sure it would be a lot more digestible of a record, but I don't know. They broke up after Sargavinder's Boning came out. Then a couple years ago, of course, like a lot of bands do, they say, we're back, we're going to do something, just wait. And then nothing ever came of it. So, anyways, it's super weird, trollish, Swedish folk metal. Before folk metal was a thing, before your fucking Finn Trolls and your Ensiferums and all that other fucking pizza metal garbage that I don't give a fuck about, this is really where it's at. Alvifard is fucking just the greatest folk metal record that I've ever heard. And then to top it all off, on Sargavinder's Boning, there's a cover of Holy Diver by Dio, which you've just got to hear to really understand. But check out Alvifard. It's fucking flawless album. I remember I was 17 years old when I got Alvifard on CD. I was working in a deli in Marion, Iowa, and all the old ladies would go home, and I would close down the deli, and I would just be wiping tables down and throwing mashed potatoes into the trash can and just singing these Swedish folk songs that I didn't speak Swedish. I didn't know a fucking word of it, but I was just completely obsessed with one of the catchiest albums that I've ever heard to this day. We're going on 12 minutes here, so we've got one final album, and this is a doozy. Decomposed with Hope Finally Died. This originally came out in, I'm going to guess, maybe 93 on Century Media. And these guys, man, I don't know where they're from, but I'm going to guess either American or British death doom band. I'd say really the closest similarity to another known band maybe is Anathema, but not the Anathema that most people know. I'm talking Crestfallen or what's the Anathema album? I can't think of it right now. The one with the French girl singing on it. That album, oh my god, so good. I would go through this booklet, but this artwork is so terrible, and I feel like the only reason this album isn't a super well-known doom death metal classic is because the artwork and the album cover on this is just fucking god-awful. I don't think there's any excuses for letting your album look like this. Especially given that the other releases that Decomposed put out before this have cool stuff. They have a nasty logo and shit. Who had to go in there and use this fucking bullshit font? And just, I don't know, this looks like the most forgettable, looked over, washed up piece of crap there is. But, yeah, this is some flawless doom death. There's just tons of different variety and songwriting style going on here. It's super emotional, and I really like that about how it's an atypical sort of death metal album that gets brutal and fast sometimes, and then gets really slow and has keyboard stuff and violins going on. This just runs the gamut of styles, and that's the kind of thing that keeps me really interested about death metal, and especially one of the eccentricities that makes doom death such a fascinating genre. And this is not to be overlooked. This is a reissue. I think the original versions of this go for quite a bit of money. So this is one case where I would say, on the reissue, let's get some new fucking artwork on this thing. But, of course, Century Media didn't do it. I'm sorry, Candlelight didn't do it. So that's Decomposed. Hope Finally Died. Man, great fucking album. These are all great albums. And you're great for tuning in. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.